I will get the URI back and update my table with this URI. So I will have a reference for this picture inside my table storage. Okay? So this is the pattern that everyone uses to store large data. So let's run the application again. One more time, kicking in my simulation for the compute and the storage. Binding the grid. I know that I will find one record without a picture. This is the record that I stored moments earlier. Now I will create an online event 2, and let's say it's on Sunday this time, and let's upload this picture and let's submit. Now, you know the first part. In the first part, I'm adding the event entry, and notice that I'm getting back an ID. This is the row key, so this is the primary key of my row. Again, this is the row key. I'm inserting a record here and getting back the row key. Now I'm using this key to add the picture, taking you inside the code that adds the picture. Again, notice the REST-based API to access my blob storage. So getting a reference. Okay, do you remember what is this? This is the reference I initialize in my web role. So you can see now why in the web role I put this code. So this is the code to initialize everything related to my storage. Because I have done that, now I can get a reference. I know that this blob storage, it's already there, so I can safely get a reference and upload byte array to this blob and return back the URI. Getting back the URI, okay, and as you can see here, this is actually a URI of my blob image, which I can take and I can safely put in a browser. And as you can see, it's uploaded in my local storage. Okay, and then updating back the event entry. Now notice what I'm doing here. I have the key of my record, and using link code, I'm getting the item. So I'm getting the item corresponding to my key. I'm updating the picture item, which was null in the first time I uploaded, it was null. Now I'm updating the picture item with the picture URI and updating the object and finally saving the changes. Now when I bind the grid, as you can see here, I have the first item, which was without a picture, and I have a second item having the picture. Again, let's summarize. This item here, the online event 2 and the date are stored in my table storage, but the picture is coming from the blob. I'm only storing in my table the URI for this picture. Okay, so in order to make you see this even more clear, let me browse through my local storage. So this is my local storage, and as you can see, this is the first item I uploaded, the online event. As you can see, it has a partition key, which is the date of today, and it has a unique row key. It has a timestamp. It has the date. This is the date of the event. This is the name of the event. Okay, I will talk about this as a highlight column later. And as you can see, the first one has no picture URI. It's empty. The second one, it has the picture URI pointing to my blob storage location, and that's why it has the image displayed in the grid view. Now, one thing to note about this table, that a very cool thing about the table storage is that you can have multiple entries, multiple entities with different schemas. So unlike relational tables, like for example with SQL Server, what you can have here is have two rows having completely two different schemas. Okay? So this is the local storage. This is the table. And let me show you the container. Container here means blob. So let me show you the events blob. Let me refresh. And as you can see, this is the picture. This is the picture that I uploaded. And this is the picture being referenced from inside my events table. Okay? So let me check the time. Okay. Good. I will continue for 5 or 10 minutes, then I will take 5 minutes break. Okay, good. So this is the first part of my application. In this part, let's just summarize what happened. I created a web role, and this web role is actually the compute part. And I showed you till now a table storage, and I showed you a blob storage, and how to enter information in the, so how to do inserts, how to do updates in the table storage, and how to do inserts in the blob storage. I also showed you the local simulation, the local emulators for both the compute and the storage. And the next part of the demo, we will take now a break for 5 minutes. And the next part of the demo, I will show you the queue storage, I will show you the worker role, and I will continue discussing SQL Azure and the Azure App Fabric, and finally wrap up this presentation. So 5 minutes break, so now it's 2:50, at 2:55 I will continue. So now I'm adding the worker role to my project, and click add. Okay, and as you can see, once I did that, again in my service project, again in my unit of deployment project, I have both the online and I will have both the web role, and now I will also have the worker role. And as you can see, the worker role, if you have done any Windows services development, you will find that it's really very similar. It has the run event, and it has the on-start event. So again, on-start is the place where you write code to do any initialization stuff. And the run event is the event that runs every certain time. So for example here, every 10,000 milliseconds, so every 10 seconds, this this worker role will run and will do whatever code that you instructed to do. So again, I will add a reference to my data store project, and I will go to my rebuilt application. By the way, at the end of the session, I will post the full code on my blog. Okay, so you can go and download this application, and you can run it locally. So I will post the code on my blog. So this is the worker role. Let me copy the code first, and then I will explain it. And take the code from the start. Paste it here. And I will take this method. And again, I will explain it. Okay. I think I have left some variables here. Okay. So let's start with the Let's start with the onStart event. And let's start with this line here, role environment.changing, and I'm binding to an event handler here. What this event handler is doing is that it monitors if any configuration setting has happened. So this role instance is started again. So this worker role instance is started again. It does that for it to be able to pick up any new configurations. Okay, and then I'm doing a code which is identical to the one I wrote in the web role, which is basically initializing my storage stuff. In my worker role, I initialized the table, the blob, and the queue. In the worker role, I need the queue, so I'm initializing the queue here because again, in the worker role, I'm accessing the queue. So I want to make sure that the queue is there. So again, this is the initialization code that I want to run. So this is the onStart, and then the run code itself, and this is the code that I care about. As you can see here, I'm creating cloud message queue, and I'm reading any new message from the queue. So basically what's happening here is, anytime there's a message in the queue, actually it's every 1 second. This code runs every 1 second. So every 1 second, this worker role checks the queue. Whenever it finds a new message on the queue, I know that this message is of type event source, because in my web role, I'm storing this message. So anytime I found a message inside my queue, I create a new event source, and this message contains, remember that this message contains the row key, as I have explained. So I update the table again, and I highlight the event using this key. And finally, I delete the message from the queue. So one more time, in order to understand this clearly, let's run the application again. So again, running the application now, I have two roles to start. I have the web role and I have the worker role. Oops. And I get the same error. Actually, I didn't mean it this time, but I forgot anyway. So remember that I have to define that my application, okay, I'm instructing my application to deal with the storage. So I'm saying, okay, initialize me a table, initialize me a queue, initialize me a blob. However, again, I forgot to say that, okay, do I want to talk to my local storage simulation, or I want to talk to the cloud storage? Since I want to talk to my local storage simulation, again, go back to the settings of the worker role, go to settings, add a setting here, it's of type connection string, and same, use the Windows Azure Storage Emulator. Okay? Again, I will change that once I connect to the cloud, once I connect to the online storage account. So now I can run again, hopefully this time without any problems. Okay, let me skip this one because in the previous example I actually added a message in the queue, and as it was still sitting there. So I want to take you through the full cycle now. Okay. I've added two messages on the queue. Let me delete this breakpoint and put it here. So I will access the code only if the message is not null. So if actually I do have a message on the queue. Okay, now let's create an online event 3 title, and let's set the date to yesterday. Okay, I can do that. And let's upload whatever, a new icon. And let's hit submit. So remember what's happening again. I will go through this code quickly. First of all, I'm adding an event entry inside my table storage. I'm adding a row and getting back the row key. And then I'm adding the picture, the bytes of the picture. I'm adding them to the blob storage, getting back the URI, update the table with this URI, and finally add a queue message. And this message contains the row key. So I'm adding the row key as an element in the queue. And once I do that, I will bind the grid again. And as you can see, automatically the